There seems to be much division about the SABC's planned retrenchment of 400 staff. Staff clash with management about a proposed new structure on Tuesday. Some board members have now come out in public saying they are not in agreement with the planned job cuts at the public broadcaster. And last night, government told Parliament that as the broadcaster's shareholder has been kept in the dark about this process. So what's really going on and what's the latest going forward? We're joined now at this hour by the chair of the SABC board, Bongumusa Makhathini. Kabashe, good morning. Thank you very much for your time this morning. I don't think you've had much sleep. Can we begin about the information coming out overnight with your shareholder saying they were taken by surprise by your plans to retrench staff at the SABC? Is that true? You never informed your shareholder?
Thank you for the opportunity and greetings to you and your viewers and listeners at home. The truth of the matter is management meet with the department and National Treasury on a monthly basis to update them on a number of things. It is not entirely correct that there hasn't been any update given on this matter. But of course, we report to the minister on a quarterly basis. We don't necessarily have to be reporting outside of those reporting framework or guidelines, because we need time to execute and implement the agreement and the resolution. And then when we have something and it's time for us to submit those reports, that happens on a quarterly basis.
When did the management, you are the chair of the board, and correct me if I'm wrong, you don't run SABC on a day-to-day basis. You have a chief executive officer, you have a chief operations officer, you have a chief financial officer, you have an executive management team that should be operationally responsible. Now, retrenchments speak to requirements, operational requirements of an organization to streamline itself, to make itself more efficient. When did you as a board get the request from operational management that they were thinking of laying off staff?
We got it before June, but then we had a meeting in June, on the 4th of June, where management presented to us. And in that presentation, we approved three things. One, in the main, that we need a reduction in the salary bill of 700 million, and that was approved by the board. The second thing that we approved the implementation of the target operating model, which is a new target operating model. We also approved the restructuring and mandated management to start a process of consultation as guided by the Labour Relations Act, which that resolution was given on the 4th of June. And then they did the consultation over a period of 120 days, and they had about 16 meetings in total, which is far exceed what is prescribed by the Labour Relations Act, because it prescribed 60 days and 4 meetings, but they did 16 meetings over 120 days, which means ample time was given to the stakeholders like our labor unions and other our staff members to give input. Then on the 30th of October, we had a meeting then to consider all the input and the report that came out of that consultation. And in that report, it had a number of things that were suggested as the initiative that needed to be done. One of those is, for example, to freeze salaries for a period of 3 years for everybody, to review like the number of sick leave days and so forth. So there's a whole list of things that needs to be done, which then was approved by the board. And that must get us to the 700 million reduction in the salary bill.
Now, that reduction of 700 million in the salary bill will cut across all levels, right from the top to the lowest paid employee, or was this specific bands of your payroll that you'll be reducing and achieve the 700 million?
No, the report will, and all these initiatives will be implemented across all levels, even the board. I mean, the SABC board, since we joined the board in 2017, we haven't had any review of board fees, and we're not going to have any for the next 2 to 3 years. And that was confirmed in an AGM that we had. And the initiative that we talk about will affect everybody, because it is the responsibility of all of us who cares about the SABC to sacrifice something and contribute something to make sure SABC becomes financially stable and viable?
Well, I guess we all have a stake in that. I mean, I'm a taxpayer. I fund the SABC as a taxpayer because the SABC is a public broadcaster. It's a state-owned enterprise. So we don't want our public broadcaster to fail. We have a huge mandate because many millions of South Africans rely on you for information. So I guess we're doing the right thing. But from the response, from the reaction of the employees that we've seen this week, from statements by your colleagues on the board, it looks like there's no unity in terms of this action that you've decided. You speak of a resolution in June, but the voices that are coming out, even after consultation, are disgruntled voices. And some of your board members are saying there's no unanimous resolution on the matter. How do you respond to that?
The truth of the matter is, if you look at all boards, whether public or private sector board, there will always be disagreement and there will always be differences when decisions like this have to be made. But it cannot be correct that those that don't agree with the resolution of the board can then go out in public and attack and label the board legitimate and proper resolution in bad faith or put it in bad light or undermine it. That cannot be accepted. And the truth of the matter is we had ample time as board members, 14 of us were involved in this discussion, and after thorough deliberation and being presented with facts like from where we are as the SABC, when we were given the 3.2 billion rand, it came with a condition that we must cut our salary bill. National Treasury
was that was that the instruction from your shareholder?
Basically, yes. When we got the 3.2 billion rand, it came with a number of conditions, and one of those was SABC must cut its salary bill. So it is also a compliance issue that you can't be given an instruction, a condition by a government, and not comply with it.
Sorry, in the interest of time, yes, you must cut your salary bill, but there could be a number of ways you do that. I'm raising this, Kabasha, on the basis of what we've seen other companies do during the coronavirus pandemic, where people took 30% salary cuts. Could you not rather, right from the top, because the biggest earners at the SABC are sitting at the top, from the chief executive officer, his executive team, right down. Could you not have rather said, let's cut this salary bill differently without retrenching, let's cut 30% from the CEO salary right across to certain levels? Could not you have done that? Is retrenchment the only way you can reduce the salary bill?
But part of the restructuring process has to do with the fit-for-purpose structure. Say, for an example, SABC has not done well in the digital space. So we need to create our presence in that space for us to be sustainable and to survive, which means we need to create new roles. There may be skills that are no longer relevant because of the changes that have happened in the broadcasting space. That's one. But it is not entirely correct that the only thing and the only option that we've entertained or considered, rather, is retrenchment. There's a whole list of things in that report that I'm referring to that we approve that talks about a number of other things that will be done. But looking at the quantum of how much we need to reduce, 700 million, if you're not doing significant enough, we will not be able to get ourselves out of the hole we are in currently. So we have to look at everything, and we continue to take input to minimize the impact on our employees.
Well, your employees are very unhappy, as we've seen. You say you consulted over 120 days as required by the Labour Relations Act in terms of Section 189. You had more meetings than what is stipulated, but still there's unhappiness. Now we're hearing reports of a blackout coming this Friday. I mean, the national public broadcaster cannot go on a blackout. Are there contingency plans that you are aware that the operational management led by the CEO are going to put in place to make sure that your TV stations, your radio stations stay on the air?
Certainly, management has worked on the contingency plan, and we have been informed that those are in place. And of course, when you're embarking on such a process, it is a painful process, it's an emotional process, and I understand the pain that our employees are going through. But the option of doing nothing can also render the whole thing irrelevant, and it can collapse the SABC. And it's about balancing those two and making sure that we are able to save the SABC for the next generation.
Yeah, but the pain is felt less by somebody who's earning more than R1 million when they're not affected, and it's felt more by somebody sitting in a newsroom or sitting elsewhere in the organization who's earning less than R1 million a year. If you look back now, as we conclude, would you have done something else different? Would you have pushed retrenchment to be the last resort in your quest to achieve what the shareholder, the government, has instructed you to do in cutting the salary bill? Would you have pushed retrenchment as a last resort?
Certainly, retrenchment is the last resort. We've been discussing about this for the past 2 years. All right? So it's not the first thing that we've done. We've reviewed a number of contracts that were not making commercial sense. We've done a whole lot of other things to reduce our losses. I mean, we took losses above R1 billion down to 700 million, down to 400 million. We're now sitting at about 500 million. So it clearly shows that a lot of work has been done. And certainly retrenchment is the last resort. And it's still the biggest cost driver, 43% of our total expenditure. It's unsustainable.
Okay, you are having a special meeting today, is that correct? I saw a report earlier. Is the board having a special meeting today?
Yes, we're having a special meeting today as the board.
You will not change your mind. The retrenchments are going to go ahead.
I can't go into a meeting with that kind of an approach and an attitude because we work as a collective. We must go in as board members and look at everything that we've been presented with, the input that we've received, and then assess if the information that we have and the reality that we are faced with necessitate us to look at things differently. But as we stand now, today, the resolution of the board still stands until the same board that took those resolutions decides to review the same.
Okay, we'll have to await then the outcome of that meeting. But I know you're very unhappy from what you've said, that some of your colleagues in that board have gone out publicly to say they didn't agree with the resolution. That puts you in a little bit of an invidious position, and also government saying it was in the dark, but you disagree with that. You say government was briefed by operational management on a monthly basis. Somewhere, somehow, trust will need to be rebuilt. Thank you very much, Bongumusa Makhathini. Meanwhile, the SABC employees are waiting for the outcome of that special SABC board meeting.